But the thing is, future you and someone else that you have to live with right now that's not you are pretty much the same people. And so if you're going to act in your self-interest and you have other people around you, then you also want to act in their self-interest, because otherwise they won't like you, they won't cooperate with you, and they won't compete with you in a reasonable manner. And so that's going to be a catastrophe. And so you want to act out what's good for you now and what's good for you next month and next year. And you want to do that in a way that's good for you and your family and your community right now, next week, and next year. And you're going to take all those things into account at the same time. That's an equilibrated game from a Piagetian perspective. And it was his idea that that constituted the basis for proper moral judgment. And it's a brilliant idea. It's a brilliant idea. And so that's your true self-interest. There's no difference between your interest and the interest of others, not in any fundamental sense. Even your enemies, which is why you're enjoined to treat your enemy as if he was yourself, because he is. You know, and you think, well, you should wish well, you should wish your enemies well. Well, why? Well, it isn't that you hope they get a bigger house than you. It's that, let's say you're being pursued and tormented by someone who's truly reprehensible. That person they have a miserable life, man, in all likelihood. Let's say they're truly malevolent. You know, they live in hell. And what you might hope for them is that they could figure out how to get out of there, because it's not good for them and it's not good for anyone else.
In a sense, in your book, you talk about love as if it were a business deal of some kind. Isn't the essence of love that it is above self-interest?
Well, let me make it concrete for you. What would it mean to have love above self-interest? It would mean, for instance, that a husband would tell his wife, if he were moral, according to the conventional morality, that I am marrying you just for your own sake. I have no personal interest in it, but I am so unselfish that I am marrying you only for your own good. I agree with you that it should be treated like a business deal, but every business has to have its own terms and its own kind of currency. And in love, the currency is virtue. You love people not for what you do for them or what they do for you. You love them for the values, the virtues which they have achieved in their own character. You don't love causelessly. You don't love everybody indiscriminately. You love only those who deserve it.
And then if a man is weak or a woman is weak, then he is beyond love?
He certainly does not deserve it. He certainly is beyond. He can always correct it. Man has free will. If a man wants love, he should correct his weaknesses or his flaws, and he may deserve it. But he cannot expect the unearned, neither in love nor in money, neither in matter nor spirit.
You have lived in our world, and you recognize the fallibility of human beings. There are very few of us, then, in this world, by your standards, who are worthy of love.
Unfortunately, yes, very few. But it is open to everybody to make themselves worthy of it, and that is all that my morality offers them.
If they will
a way to make themselves worthy of love, although that's not the primary motive.
So here's one way of thinking of it, and this is where I think Ayn Rand was wrong. Like, there's very little difference between, so there's the you I'm talking to, right? But there's the you that hypothetically extends, let's say, 30 years out into the future. And so you could think there's the day-to-day you 30 years into the future, and the week-to-week, and the month-to-month, and the year-to-year you. And in some sense, that you that extends into the future isn't much different than other people. You know, so if you're acting in the moment to ensure that your long-term thriving is potentiated, you're going to act in a manner towards yourself that's not much different than the way that you would react to others that you were treating properly. And so I would say, like, Rand's problem is that I think that she draws too tight a line between competition, say competition, selfishness, and public good. Those do not have to be antithetical. In fact, I don't think they are. I think that when you act most wisely in your own best self-interest, you simultaneously act in the best interest of the people around you and broader society. And that's part of this stacking up of levels of analysis. You can have your cake and eat it too. And so the reason that you should regulate your impulses, let's say, and discipline yourself isn't so that you can suffer the kind of privation and self-sacrifice in relationship to being an altruist that Ayn Rand complained about with good reason. It's because you want to regulate and discipline yourself, because that way you can serve a master, let's say, that serves everything at once. And I've ceased believing that that's merely a metaphysical statement. You know, like if I conduct myself so that my family maximally benefits along with me, how could that be anything but good also for me? So,
Right.
so sacrifice properly understood it's back to our earlier discussion. It's not the rejection of worldly goods. It's not self-abnegation and flagellation. It's the replacement of a relatively unsuccessful strategy, power, domination, like worldly pleasure, let's say, with a ethic that's inconceivably better on all dimensions.
Right.
So
My morality is based on man's life as a standard of value. And since man's mind is his basic means of survival, I hold that if man wants to live on earth and to live as a human being, he has to hold reason as an absolute, by which I mean that he has to hold reason as his only guide to action, and that he must live by the independent judgment of his own mind, that his highest moral purpose is the achievement of his own happiness, and that he must not force other people, nor accept their right to force him, that each man must live as an end in himself and follow his own rational self-interest.